goes more in favor of ASD because of the presence of large, significant enlargement of right atrium as well as right ventricle, mostly right ventricle, and the apex also is formed by right ventricle. How will you make out whether the apex is formed by right ventricle or left ventricle? How will you make out?
Sir, in case of
it is down and out.
Pulsation, sir. Hello.
So down and out is LV. RV is down and upward. Sorry, outwards and upwards. And based on retraction.
Even though that's a general statement, in RV type of apex also, you can sometimes get apex beat down and out. So that is not always
based on retraction.
It is most of
medial retraction.
RV type, sir.
Lateral retraction
is LV.
Sir, in case of
sir, if it is localized, it is localized and it is LV type apex.
Yeah, very good. See, what you can do is that you palpate the apex beat. After palpating the apex beat, you trace the apex beat medially. If there are no more pulsations felt medially, that obviously means that it is a LV type. But if you track it medially, and then you find that the impulse dies down, and then as you go reach the parasternal region, impulse again reappears, that is more likely to be both RV and LV are dilated. If you track medially, then you find that as you go medially, the impulse becomes more and more prominent, and the most prominent impulse is felt in the parasternal region. That obviously means that apex is formed by RV. So that is the simplest method. I will repeat. You palpate the apex beat and track it medially. When you track it medially, after it completely disappears, that obviously means that apex beat is formed by the LV and there is no RV enlargement. Two, when you track medially, the impulse is felt, and then the impulse, as you track medially, it disappears, but in the parasternal region, it again reappears, indicate that both RV and LV are involved. But then you track from the apex beat medially, impulse becomes more and more prominent, and then you can feel very powerful impulse in the parasternal region that indicates that this is a pure RV type of apex, and RV is the one which is involved. So, Amit, did you try to track medially, or are you going to describe that?
Sir, I put two fingers, and there was a lateral, means the middle finger showed it showed a lateral retraction. So
okay,
that was,
but what about the parasternal region?
Parasternal showed there was a grade 3 parasternal heave present. Sir, can I share?
No. I would like to know whether the parasternal lift was continuous with the apical impulse.
Parasternal lift continues. No, sir. I didn't see for that.
Yeah, you should always look for that when you get apical impulse of the RV type and the parasternal lift. You should track it and find out whether the impulse is continuous. If it is continuous, you are sure that it is the apex is formed by the RV.
Yes, sir.
Could you understand the description?
Yes.
How you can make out whether it is RV type, LV type,
or if the parasternal impulse is continuous with the
apex, it is RV type. There is a break, and then you separately feeling an impulse. It means RV, both RV and LV both are involved. If there is no parasternal lift and only apical impulse, then it is an LV type. Okay, right? Yes.
So there is a grade 3 parasternal heave present. There are palpable epigastric pulsations present, and there is no thrill. There is a palpable P2 present.
How did you say this P2?
Sir, how?
How did you say that it is P2?
Sir, it could be. So it was in the pulmonary area. So I said this. So it could be A2 also. Palpable second heart sound.
Yes, you say that is S2 is palpable.
S2, palpable
you
S2.
Don't use P2 because by palpation you can't be certain whether it is A2 or P2. We can say S2, most likely P2. If you want to make it a little more clear, you can say that it is S2 palpable, most likely it is the pulmonary component. If you want to make a more elaborate statement, you can definitely do it. But say that S2 is palpable, most likely pulmonary component. So if the examiner asks you, why did you say pulmonary component? Then you can say that it is felt in the pulmonary area. So I think it is most likely to be pulmonary component. Okay. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. Yes. But did you feel any pulsations?
Pulsations, the epigastric pulsations.
No, that's right. Any pulsation in the base of the heart. Because when the pulmonary artery is dilated, you may be able to get pulsations in the second intercostal space. If the RV outflow is dilated, you will be able to get pulsations in the third intercostal space. You should carefully look for, because we are looking for dilated RV. So you should
Yes, sir.
specifically look for pulsations in the second intercostal space due to pulmonary artery dilatation, a third intercostal space due to RV outflow dilatation. So those things should be mentioned. You should carefully look for that.
Yes, sir.
Is it clear, Amit?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, right. Yes, go ahead, Amit. Yes.
Sir, coming to percussion, sir, the left heart border.
What are students? Anybody would like to raise any point? Students? Any doubts? Any points? Okay, right. Go ahead. Yes.
So, left heart border corresponds to the apex. The right heart border is 1 centimeter from the right sternal border. And so the liver dullness is present in the right fifth intercostal space in the mid-clavicular line.
You should always palpate because the second intercostal space both on the right side as well as on left side. Normally, sometimes you can get high dullness extending up to about 1 centimeter beyond the left sternal border. But beyond that is definitely abnormal. So if if there is a dull note about 2 centimeters outside the sternal border, then you should consider that something is underlying that area, and most likely it is a vessel. If it is on the left side, it is pulmonary artery, and if it is on the right side, it is aorta. So you should always for 4 areas you should focus at the level of the apex beat, right border, and second right and the left sternal borders close to sternum.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
So,
Students, anybody would like to raise any doubts, any points? Okay, go ahead. Yes.
Sir, can you please repeat just once again what all 4 areas we need to?
One left border, whether the dullness corresponds to the palpated apex beat. The sternal, the second intercostal space on the left side close to sternum. The second intercostal space on the right side close to sternum. And right border of the heart. These are the 4 areas you should focus.
So then the stomach tympani is present on the left side.
Okay, right.
So coming to auscultation, sir, S1 is normal. S2 is loud and single.
Okay.
So there is a grade 3 ejection systolic murmur, best heard in the left second intercostal space, short and early peaking, and is of medium frequency.
Yes, yeah. Okay, yeah.
And is of medium frequency, harsh, best heard with the diaphragm, which increases with inspiration and in supine position, and decreases with expiration and standing position.
Okay, that obviously you are meaning that it is a?
Yes, sir. Pulmonary ejection systolic murmur.
Yeah, it is a right-sided murmur. It is a right-sided murmur. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. Okay, yes. So, which is increased. Okay, right. That only tells us that it's a pulmonary murmur. Okay, right. Yes. Okay, fine, great. Okay, go ahead.
So then coming to, but there is no other murmur or no other sound.
There is no murmur in the tricuspid area.
No, sir, nothing.
Did you carefully make the patient breathe and look for any murmur in the tricuspid area?
Yes, sir. Sir, I checked for each and every area, but only this murmur was present.
Only this murmur. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Yes. What are the causes of an mid-systolic ejection murmur? Mechanisms of ejection systolic murmur.
So increased flow across the pulmonary artery can lead to ejection systolic murmur.
No, mechanisms you should describe. First one is normal flow across a
Normal valve.
Abnormal
flow across a stenosed valve. Example.
Aortic stenosis, pulmonary stenosis.
Very good. Amit, second mechanism.
So increased flow with normal valve.
Flow.
Yeah, increased flow across a normal valve. Example.
Ejection.
Idiopathic pulmonary.
Sir, aortic regurgitation functional.
Yeah, aortic regurgitation or in ASD across the pulmonary valve. Third mechanism. Amit.
Yes, sir.
What is the third mechanism?
Sir, pulmonary
vascular mechanism.
No. There are 6 mechanisms for ejection systolic murmur is the commonest murmur, and there are 6 mechanisms you should know, and ultimately you should fix it. What is the mechanism here?
Yes.
What is the third mechanism? Anyone of you?
Sir, narrow vessel opening into the dilated segment.
Okay. Now valve the valve opening to a dilated vessel. Example.
Sir, post-stenotic dilatation of pulmonary artery.
Not post-stenotic dilation. In a patient with pulmonary artery hypertension, the pulmonary artery can be large. Aortic aneurysm, the aorta can be large. And in these situations, you can get a ejection systolic murmur. Okay. Fourth mechanism. Normal valve, not normal valve. Normal flow, non-stenotic valve, but structurally abnormal. Example.
Bicuspid aortic valve.
Bicuspid aortic valve. Bicuspid aortic valve can be raised. Fifth mechanism, sclerosed valve. In old people, there is the valve, aortic valve can be sclerosed, and that can give rise to mid-systolic murmur. And last mechanism for mid-systolic murmur is hyperdynamic circulatory states, like anemia, thyrotoxicosis, very, all can give rise to. So the ejection systolic murmur is the commonest murmur you are going to hear over the recording. And when you hear that murmur, you will fix it up to one of these 6.
Yes.
Amit, what do you think is the mechanism here?
Sir, it is due to more flow across the wall, normal wall.
Why do you say that it's a more flow? Because in an Eisenmenger situation, more flow across the pulmonary valve is very unlikely. Because there is a right and left shunt.
Yes.
Here you can explain by saying because you have single second sound, palpate, you have found it is loud, you have found it is palpable, or so there is a PAH, and so it could be pulmonary artery, dilated pulmonary artery to which the pulmonary valve is opening, and that can give rise to a mid-systolic murmur. So this could be secondary to pulmonary artery hypertension and pulmonary artery dilatation.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Second.
yeah, right. Okay, next. Go ahead.
So can I share?
Yeah.
Sir, so Baki, rest of the examinations, sir, respiratory system is normal, per abdo is normal, CNS conscious oriented. Sir, coming to diagnosis, sir, situs solitus, levocardia, cyanotic congenital heart disease, most probably ventricular septal defect with right to left shunt, with pulmonary artery hypertension, with normal sinus rhythm, not in congestive
once you say that VSD with right left shunt with pulmonary artery hypertension, you should also make a statement Eisenmenger syndrome.
Yes.
Okay, right. Yes.
So with normal sinus rhythm, not in congestive cardiac failure, no features of infective endocarditis, and no features of rheumatic heart disease.
What do you want to say? No features of rheumatic heart disease? What do you mean by that statement? Why did you say no?
So it's not a sequelae to some other disease.
No. Here there is nothing to suspect. So you need not make that statement. The diagnosis should be cyanotic congenital heart disease, Eisenmenger syndrome, or VSD with PAH, yes. Eisenmenger syndrome, right left or bidirectional shunt. You can't be certain it is only right left. Most of the patients with Eisenmenger syndrome has got a bidirectional shunt. When you do an echo, you might observe many times that they can have a bidirectional shunt. Yes. And other things, okay, I won't agree with your concluding diagnosis of no features of rheumatic heart disease. I don't think it is required.
So no, or I can write, so no complications of this, like brain abscess, no complications of Eisenmenger syndrome.
Oh, you can say that. You can write that.
No hyper, or hyperviscosity syndrome present.
Yeah, you can say that. No complications. At present, no complications, which in good bracket, you can say no brain abscess, hyperviscosity syndrome, all those things. Okay, fine. Right. Would you like to consider a possibility of ostium primum defect with MR?
Ostium primum defect with MR.
Oh.
MR can present systolic murmur.
There would be fixed plate matter in cases of.
Is it ostium primum defect? I agree with you, pH and all
Hello?
those things. I am asking whether it is Eisenmenger syndrome. Hello, I am asking whether it is ASD primum.
No, sir.
Why?
No.
So they would be fixed and wide split of the S2, sir. There
Yes.
will not be.
Fixed. Wide fixed S2, sir.
Very good.
Fixed
There will
split.
be, may not be widely fixed, but wide splitting of the second heart sound is a feature of Eisenmenger ASD. So here it is a single second heart sound. That is a point against ASD. Okay, very good. Yes. How will you explain
One
the
doubt, sir.
Yeah, but before that, Amit, how will you explain cardiac enlargement?
Sir, it could be because of biventricular enlargement.
Why do you say biventricular enlargement? In
because,
Eisenmenger, are you expecting biventricular enlargement?
No, sir, I am expecting a VSD. So that may lead to biventricular enlargement. And later,
No. You once it has become a Eisenmenger, then
yes,
the flow coming to
chances
the
of biventricular.
LV comes down. What is the
Yes, sir.
what happens to the LV filling in a patient with Eisenmenger syndrome?
It will be less,
Right
sir.
to left
It will be less because the less
Yes.
amount is flowing to the pulmonary arterial system. Less amount is blood is coming back to the left atrium through the pulmonary veins, and less blood is coming to the left ventricle. So left ventricle becomes smaller.
Yes.
So why did you say it is a biventricular enlargement?
So because so we got a down and out apex.
No. But you
we
said
got
apex is an RV type. I told
yes,
you
yes,
that
that is
even in
true.
RV also you can have down and out apex.
Down and out
Down and
apex.
apex
Yes.
does not mean that it is purely LV. From your description, everything it is RV type. Don't bring in LV here. Not required.
Yes.
So here your cardiac enlargement can be due to RV itself. Only thing is that for RV enlargement of this magnitude, I would have expected the patient to have some degree of TR.
Okay.
So I would expect the patient would have some degree of TR, which might have resulted in a slightly enlarged or more than the normal enlargement. There could be some dilatation of the RV, and that has resulted in down and out of apex.
Yes.
Okay, but from your description, I cannot diagnose MR, TR, because the description is more like a ejection systolic murmur, which can be explained by the pH and consequent pH for pulmonary dilatation, resulting in systolic ejection murmur. So I think I will, okay. So let us go to further features. So ASD is unlikely because the patient is having a single second heart sound. What are the mechanisms of single second heart sound, Amit?
Sir, one is blood going into dilated aorta or pulmonary artery.
No. You should say, well, how can there be single second sound? That's the question.
Single. It to calcified other valve, either aortic valve or a pulmonary valve, leading to single heart sound.
Okay.
If it is calcified
the
aortic
commonest
valve,
one, you should say that when the aortic valve and the pulmonary valve close together. Example?
together.
VSD, sir.
VSD.
Eisenmenger VSD is a
Eisenmenger
classical
VSD.
situation where both the aortic valve and the pulmonary valve can close together, so that it is definitely second heart sound. Okay. Second mechanism.
Equal pressures in LV.
The aortic wall
Sir,
delay.
So
A2 is
one
delayed.
Sir, when the aorta is anterior,
Calcified.
Very good. When the
Outer
aorta-
is anterior, truncus
Yeah,
arteriosus.
when the aorta is anterior and the posterior pulmonary valve the sound cannot reach the chest wall. Example?
TGA.
TGA.
Very good. TGA. Third example, when there is only single valve. Example?
So
Truncus
truncus
arteriosus.
Pulmonary
Atresia.
atresia or
Pulmonary atresia or
aortic atresia.
okay, aortic atresia, that is very uncommon. All right. Or truncus arteriosus.
Truncus arteriosus.
So the pulmonary atresia, truncus arteriosus, and also if you want, you can consider apoplastic left heart syndrome with the pulmonary with the aortic atresia. Okay, right. Yes. Fourth mechanism.
Sir, long murmur engulfing one of the
Very good.
component.
The stenotic lesion of the one valve, the murmur is engulfing the other sound. For example, in the patient with aortic stenosis, the pulmonary component can be submerged inside the murmur, And similarly, in a patient with pulmonary stenosis, aortic sound can be submerged inside the normal. Very good. Another mechanism?
Sir, like in case of top, where there is one component is not audible or it is not
Very good.
audible.
As in tetralogy of Fallot, where the sound is extremely feeble and is not audible at all, does not reach the chest wall. Okay, very good. BSTPS, very good. Excellent. Tetralogy of Fallot. Right. Any next mechanism?
Severe aortic stenosis.
That we have already mentioned. The murmur engulfs the other sound. Even a thick chest wall people,
Thick
sometimes
chest
the
wall.
pulmonary component may not reach the stethoscope. And finally, in patients with conditions like emphysema, sometimes it may interfere with the transmission of the feebler sound and the pulmonary component may not reach the chest wall. So there are different mechanisms for single second heart sound. So in this patient, the single heart sound is due to simultaneous occurrence of the A2 and B2. Okay, right, yes. In this patient, did you carefully look for an ejection click?
Yes, sir. So no ejection click present.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
What type of an ejection click are you expecting in Eisenmenger syndrome?
Sir, valvular. Vascular click.
Vascular. What is the mechanism of vascular click?
Sir, more flow across the wall.
No, it is nothing to do with flow.
Reverberation of the normally
Sir,
produced
increased
sound into a
reverberations of
dilated.
the dilated
Yeah.
vessel.
Yeah, what is the mechanism of vascular ejection click?
So it is because of reverberation of the normally produced valvular sound
Very
in
good.
the dilated vessel.
Yeah. See, normally it's when the valve opens, there is a very minor noise. This minor noise is not audible for human ears. But when it opens to a dilated chamber, this can occur in aortic aneurysm, pulmonary arterial hypertension with large pulmonary artery, then it reverberates and becomes audible to the human ear. So vascular click is due to the opening sound getting reverberated. Okay, right. Yes. Okay, so now from here, shall we go to the investigations? Do we want to discuss any other differential diagnosis? Do you think it is PDA? It's PDA?
Sir, then
Sir, there
SO2
is-
will not be single, no, sir. It would be
No.
at least split would be there, sir.
Yeah, there could be some split could be appreciated. And PDA is one condition where you can sometimes get a LV type of apex.
Yeah.
So if you are feeling some LV, that will be a point more in favor of PDA than other two. So PDA in this
Sir,
patient,
one doubt, sir. Sir, this case of VSD with PS, sir. So, with Eisenmengerization, sorry. So there would be a history of recurrent respiratory tract infection in childhood would be there, na, sir.
he has given a story.
No, sir, there it is not mentioned as such.
Yeah, he has mentioned that.
Yeah,
It is given. It is given. It
It
was
was
mentioned.
given. He said there was
Yeah,
recurrent
it is.
respiratory tract infection with hospitalization. He has described that. He has described
Sir, one
that.
more doubt.
Oh.
Sir, when we describe a continuous murmur, or if it's a PDA without Eisenmenger and we are describing the continuous murmur, what do we say about the second heart sound in that case? That second heart sound was not heard.
Then you should say that second heart sound is not audible because the sound is
Engulfing of the-
inside the murmur. So when the sound is usually the
Okay, so we
continuous
can
murmur loudest at the time of the occurrence of the P2. And then you can say that P2 is not audible or S2 is not audible because the very often S2 is audible. A2 component can be clearly audible in the aortic area, but in the pulmonary area, the S2 may not be audible because it is subdued by the loud continuous murmur which peaks at the A2 at the timing of the A2. S2. Okay, now go to the ECG.
Okay.
I mean, go to ECG. Before
Sir,
that,
sir,
anybody would like to tell me what are you expecting in the electrocardiogram?
Sir, then how do you explain that exertional palpitation, sir?
Amit, how will you explain exertional palpitation? Amit,
Yes, sir. So volume. So he
Because
had
in
this.
VSD PS physiology, there
Could be
would not
arrhythmic. Sir, could be arrhythmic because of RVH.
no,
Stretching of the RV can.
obviously, arrhythmia should be ruled out because patients with Eisenmenger syndrome can develop especially ventricular ectopic beats, and they can have arrhythmias. But in this patient, I would expect the patient to have some degree of TR. But let us look at the echo whether there is TR or not. If that is there, then I think that can explain. I would expect some degree of TR in this patient with such Eisenmenger syndrome. Most of the patients will have some degree of TR. Okay, now let's go to the. Are you showing the ECG first? Let us look at these. Would you like to see the ECG or X-ray? Any one of you? Would you like to see the ECG first or the X-ray first?
ECG.
X-ray, sir.
Always ECG.
X-ray.
Sir, X-ray would be
X-ray.
helpful
X-ray
to
would be more
differentiate
helpful.
between ASD Eisenmenger and VSD Eisenmenger.
Okay, which one would you prefer? Is it an ECG or would you prefer to look at an X-ray chest?
X-ray, sir.
X-ray.
Okay, what Amit, what is the reason?
Sir, sir, in X-ray of a VSD patient, if he has a large VSD, and then sir, he might be having biventricular hypertrophy. So
No. Biventricular
That is,
hypertrophy
no,
will not
okay.
be there. See, how will you differentiate whether it is? See, I agree with you that X-ray is more useful than an electrocardiogram. Electrocardiogram may just show right ventricular hypertrophy. You may not go
Yes.
any more into
RVH
it.
strain pattern.
So, but of course, there is some degree of LV in the electrocardiogram. That will be a point in favor of PDA.
PD.
So, if X-ray is more useful because if there is a PDA, what is the differentiating feature in the X-ray?
PD
Sir, aorta will
calcification.
be dilated.
Calcification.
Duct can be seen.
Aortic knuckle will be prominent, and that will be a point in favor of PDA. And for a point in favor of ASD,
Cardiomegaly
Cardiomegaly.
with prominent
RR dilatation.
pulmonary artery.
right. That prominent pulmonary artery can occur in all the three conditions.
Sir,
But if
RR
there is RA is
RR.
enlarged, that will be more in favor of ASD.
ASD.
If neither RA is enlarged nor aorta is not enlarged, that will be more in favor of VSD.
VSD.
So
Yes.
I would also like to look at the X-ray test, and I would like to know whether there is evidence of shunt, all those things. Okay, now Amit, read the X-ray. Can you make it
Sir,
bigger?
this is
Very small.
this is a
Zoom,
Can you make it
zoom.
bigger?
X-ray PA view, sir.
Ah.
X-ray PA view
Okay,
showing cardiomegaly,
okay.
and there is a dilatation of right pulmonary artery more and the left pulmonary artery.
No,
So
no,
then-
no, you can't be certain because why are you saying
Right
that
is more.
right is definitely enlarged. Left
Yes,
will
right
be-
descending pulmonary artery, sir, if more than 17 millimeters on a full scale, this
Okay,
we say ki
okay.
it is
That all
dilated.
tells you that the pulmonary artery is right is definitely enlarged. But the problem
Yes, sir.
with left is that it very often lies behind the
Main
Yes.
pulmonary artery.
behind the heart. Behind the
And
heart.
right.
And you may not be able to pick up because this is an underpenetrated film, and unless it is reasonably penetrated, sometimes you may not be able to pick up the left pulmonary artery which lies behind the heart. So you can definitely make a comment about the right, and about the left. I think I will not reserve my comment.
Yes.
Okay, you're right. Yes,
So then, sir, endon arteries are seen.
yeah, plenty of them. So there is evidence of plethora.
Yes.
PVH.
And you should describe also that pulmonary artery segment is prominent.
Yes, sir.
And aorta borderline, okay, right. So pulmonary artery segment is prominent. So all those features, does it help you in your diagnosis?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Early pH and this is seen.
If pulmonary artery segment is prominent, then how do you look for pulmonary artery hypertension? What are the features of pulmonary artery hypertension?
So pulmonary
Actually,
artery hypertension, we will have polymery oligemia when it is set, and then endon arteries will be seen. Then pruning of
very
the
good,
pulmonary
very
arteries.
good, very good. So
So-
if there is
So,
a
but in early phase of pulmonary artery hypertension, we find dilatation, and later on, when the severe pulmonary artery hypertension develops, there would be narrowing of the end terminal pulmonary artery.
peripheral cutoff, usually peripheral
Peripheral
cutoff.
cutoff. Yes, sir. Peripheral cutoff.
So the centralization of case, because the central vessels become very prominent, but the peripheral
Yes.
vessels is cut off. That is very suggestive of pulmonary artery hypertension. Here it seems that even periphery also has got vessels going out.
Yes. Yes.
Because this is a slightly underpenetrated film, so we have got some limitation. Whenever this is underpenetrated, you will see more and more vascular shadows, and your interpretation may not be absolutely right. But definitely there is
Cephalization of vessels, we can also cephalization of vessels also.
Yeah, capitalization of vessels can occur. Yeah. So here, no, not capitalization. Capitalization we usually suggest you what?
Venous hypertension.
Venous
Venous
hypertension.
hypertension.
Venous hypertension. Centralization occurs, not capitalization. So here, definitely there is a evidence of increased pulmonary blood flow. I will reserve my comment about the end-on vessels because, sorry, not end-on vessels, peripheral cutoff because it's an underpenetrated film. But definitely the vessels in the central part of the around the hilum, the vessels are significantly enlarged. Pulmonary artery segment is enlarged. All those indicate that most likely the patient is having at least some degree of pulmonary hypertension, which definitely goes in favor of our diagnosis. Okay, electrocardiogram.
Sir, apex beat, sir, apex.
Sir, apex beat, what to say here?
Apex
Apex
beat,
LV.
I could not see the apex very well because the X-ray. Amit,
Hmm,
can
it's
you project the apical part? I am not able to. I could not see it very well.
Yes, sir. This will be sure.
For me to
We
give a
have
comment
the
about
X-ray, X-ray, X-ray.
X-ray,
Amit.
X-ray.
X-ray you? Okay. Stop. एक second. 1 second. So are you seeing? Able to see?
I am able to see, but it is partly cut
Apex.
off because I cannot see the
Cut
lower
off, yes,
part of
sir.
the. I cannot see the apex. I cannot see the diaphragm. Can you?
But appears to be down and out, sir. Appears to be
Down and out, sir. Down
It
and out.
appears to be down and out, but see, as I told, as I have been telling you always, see the right RV enlargement also can mimic LV enlargement. Only situation where you can be very definite is that if the apex is dipping down, it is LV. If the apex is looking up, it is RV. Otherwise, it is impossible. Here, I would make a comment that if looking at it, I would favor more an LV type than RV type. I cannot completely see, but then I would, if I am forced to make a comment, I would say that it looks more like the apex is not lifted up. So hence, I would think that this could be an LV type of an apical impulse, LV type of an X-ray cardiac silhouette. X-ray, the cardiac silhouette simulates an LV type rather than RV type. But if you want to be definite, I would still make a statement that if it dips below the diaphragm, it's LV type. It looks up as in a tetralogy fellow, it is RV type. Here I will avoid making unnecessary statements because I may be wrong.
Yes, sir.
Okay, right? Yes, ECG.
Sir, here we can the cardiomegaly is also there, no, sir?
Yeah, yes, cardiomegaly is there. I agree with you.
Yes, sir.
Yes. ECG. I got difficulty. I got difficulty in making it out. You have to rotate it.
Rotate it. Excellent, sir.
Amit, you have to rotate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is okay.
No. Oh, okay, that's better. Okay, very good. Yeah, very good. Okay, right. Anybody who would like to interpret the electrocardiogram?
और
बस ठीक है या और
yeah, perfect.
It's fine. Anybody would like to give a comment?
So this is a can I, sir?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, this is a 12 lead ECG. So with normal standardization, normal speed, 25 millimeter. So showing right axis deviation, and then RVH.
What is the axis? What is the axis?
Pattern.
What is the axis?
One AVF. One AVF. So reaching right axis.
No. Tell me what is the angle?
Degree.
Angle is negative and positive. Round about. So minus 1 is 4. 81 is
around 110.
45.
It's around 120 because AVR seems to be QB6, so around 120. Okay, right. Why? Okay, it's around 120, maybe 110, 120. Okay, very good. In your right axis deviation, very good.
So then, patient has got
what are the conditions in UK right axis deviation?
Sir, RVH, severe RVH, severe pulmonary arterial hypertension.
No,
severe
that's not
PS.
the RVH. No, that's not
yes,
RVH.
Yes. Pulmonary embolism.
No, that's not RVH. Right axis deviation 1 it can occur in all conditions. There is a right ventricular hypertrophy. 2.
Tetralogy of Fallot.
No, that's all RVH. It's all
Achha,
RVH.
DO. अच्छा,
Any other condition where you can get right X deviation.
Epstein's
So
anomaly.
CCTJ with VSDPS, sir.
No, then again it is RVH. You can have right X deviation when there's the left posterior fascicular block.
Okay.
In left
posterior
posterior fascicular block, you can get right X deviation. But then there won't be any evidence of right ventricular
Epstein's
hypertrophy.
flow, sir.
Yeah, it is due to RV involvement in right ventral branch block. It may not be right axis deviation. You can have a normal axis also. Very often the axis in Epstein is only around 90 up to 90 degrees. Does not go
Yes,
to
sir.
the 110. It's not a feature of Epstein.
TAPVC.
Yeah, that's RVH. That's all RVH.
RVH.
It's all RVH. Okay, so there are only two conditions. One RVH. Many situations are there when there is RVH. Emphysema, you can get RVH. So second is when there is a left posterior fascicular block. Okay, right. Yes, go ahead. So here there's a right X deviation. Yes. Continue the
So then-
description.
Sir, then the PR interval is normal.
Okay.
Sir, RVH, RV strain pattern is seen, and RVH is present. RV forces are more dominant than LV also. RVH
Okay.
strain pattern is present, sir.
RVH is because in V1 it is pure R. Okay, right. Yes, yes. RV.
Yes, sir,
C-
pure R, sir.
Yeah. Okay, right. Yes. And there's a small Q also. So that indicates severe pulmonary hypertension. Very good. Yes.
So then there is a biphasic P wave,
Biphasic PVA, that can be normal.
suggestive atrial normal also. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Biphasic PVA is a normal pattern. Only it becomes
Yes, sir.
subnormal when
Biphasic P wave normal.
If it is more than 0.4.
40 milliseconds. no?
More than 40 milliseconds.
40 milliseconds.
what 40 milliseconds? What do you mean by that?
But 0.04
Negative is more than
1 block.
40 milliseconds, sir, then it is
duration.
Actually, better to say that if the negative part of the P wave in V1 occupies an area equal to 1 small square.
okay.
Yes, sir.
That's the simplest way of putting it. And how can you diagnose RA right atrial enlarged from V1?
The
Left atrial
positive
and-
point, positive segment is broader. So
Not broader.
Tall
It's
and
more
wide
related to
RV.
height.
Greater than 2.5.
Height.
Greater than
Tall
2.5
and wide P waves.
No. What is the height which is required to diagnose right atrial enlargement in V1?
So greater than 2.5. 2.5
No, that is in the limb leads.
30 milliseconds.
150
No.
milliseconds.
Sir, one small box.
more than one small square.
More than 1.5.
1.5.
If the height of the initial component is more than 1.5, it indicates right atrial enlargement. In the limb leads, if it is more than 2.5, the height is more than equal to or more than 2.5, it indicates right atrial enlargement. Okay, right. So here no atrial enlargement is dictated, but I agree with your there is significant right ventricular hypertrophy strain pattern. Okay, right. Yes. Okay, right. Go ahead. You do you have echo?
No, sir. Sir, I have just the this report, which means
yeah.
verbal
Okay.
report, sir.
Okay.
Sir,
Yes.
a muscular, yes, a muscular VSD, 2.5 centimeters, and sir, the RV PA pressures were 105.
Okay.
Severe pulmonary artery hypertension.
Okay.
That's it. And moderate TR was present.
Moderate?
TR was present.
Oh, that's
But
it.
sir, I could not appreciate the murmur.
That's what I said, because when you are thinking of volume overload, because he was complaining of palpitation, you should carefully look for TR murmur. So did you really make the patient breathe and look for a TR murmur?
Yes, sir. But sir, I found it systolic murmur. So I by the inching method. So I found it of the same this frequency of that of the pulmonary area. I could not appreciate it properly.
This systolic murmur that you described is an outflow murmur. It is an ejection
flow
murmur.
murmur.
So
And
that
here we
cannot
get
be
a
a TR murmur.
Yes, sir, yes.
And also from your JVP, also A wave is more than B wave That also
Yes,
ought
sir.
for a significant tear. But clinically, I thought there should be either tear or PR because he
Yes,
has got
sir.
a significant symptom of
Mm.
exertional
Exertional
Palpitations,
palpitations.
exertional palpitations. Yes, sir.
Okay. So, so our diagnosis confirmed. Now coming to the management, how will you proceed to manage this patient?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, sir.
Amit, yes.
Sir, one
Yes, sir.
doubt from the ECG. Since we discussed right axis deviation, it's a basic doubt, sir. Can a large anterior wall infarct later on lead to a right axis deviation in the ECG? Is it possible?
Right axis deviation in in an inferior wall myocardial infarction, left axis deviation is described, but very unlikely. Right axis deviation in a patient with because the left ventricle is getting infarcted, the RV forces becoming prominent. Theoretically, yes, because see, after all, in the electrocardiogram, what you compare is the LV forces and RV forces. In a patient with right ventricular hypertrophy, the RV forces become more prominent than the LV forces, so you get right axis deviation. In a patient with extensive anterior myocardial infarction, LV forces diminish. So relatively, RV forces can become slightly more prominent. So, but usually it is not described. So I had to verify that point. Theoretically, if you ask that doubt, yes, because in a patient with anterior myocardial infarction, if the LV is significantly infarcted, then the RV forces can become more prominent, and then there's a possibility that you may detect some degree of right axis deviation. But I think that is usually not described as a point for right axis deviation. Two things which lead to right axis deviation are right ventricular hypertrophy and left posterior hemiblock.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Any other doubts?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now management.
Sir, coming to management, sir, because he's a case of Essing-Wenger syndrome, sir, I will tell him not to do strenuous physical exercises and avoid dehydration.
Now, would you like to try to find out by hemodynamics whether it is reversible or not?
Yes, sir. So by doing cath and then oxygen after QP by QS ratio, after inhaling 100% oxygen.
Before and after?
Whether it is before and after.
What should be the change?
Sir, it should be less than 6 Wood units. PVR.
Less than 7. So 6 or less. Okay. So the pressure should fall to 6 Wood units. Then that may indicate that it is a
operable or
reversible.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So if it falls below, so you should do a hemodynamic study and try to find out whether they are reversible by oxygen inhalation.
Yes,
you can even give nitric oxide also is better. And also some people even give intravenous isoprenaline. All these are interventions to find out whether there is a spastic or whether the spasm is also contributing to pulmonary artery hypertension. If there is a spasm contributing, then you have got you have an option of operating on this patient. Here it is unlikely because he has got a large 2.5 centimeter VSD and it's unlikely. But okay, right? Yes. So, but that should be a part of your answer that you would like to first rule out is there any spastic component of the pulmonary arterial hypertension. Okay, right? Yes.
Sir, can we use this vasodilators and calcium channel blockers to check for whether there is decrease in pulmonary artery pressure or PVRI?
No,
add the calcium channel.
Not recommended. Things to recommended are for oxygen inhalation. Then you can give nitric oxide, isoprenaline. These are the ones which are recommended. Okay.
Sir, one doubt, sir. Sir, if they say that even if the pulmonary resistance decreases to less than 7 unit, then also they say that you can't. Sometimes it is not preferable to operate or do any intervention, sir, because there is a chances that they would land up in RV failure again, sir.
Yeah, I agree with you. That because see, in these patients with Eisenmenger syndrome, they have got a progressive pulmonary arterial pathology, and because of that, even after you have closed the VSD, there is a risk that these patients can progressively develop pulmonary artery hypertension. In a patient with PDA, you have got an advantage that you can block the PDA and try to find out whether the pulmonary artery pressure is going up or down. So the previous teaching was that when there is, or rather, if the pressure suddenly drops to 7, below 7, that is 6 OD units, there is a possibility that this patient may be an operable patient. In your discussion, you can bring it up. But studies have shown that even if if there is a drop in pressure, still there is a possibility that when you close the defect, the patients you convert it into primary pulmonary artery hypertension like feature, and the patient will go in for severe pulmonary artery hypertension and may progressively develop RV failure and may die. I agree with your point.
So then how
Sir,
to
here-
decide about that, to do an intervention or not, sir?
There is
The
some
age is
difficulty.
one factor,
In a
sir, they
PDA, there is
say that.
in a PDA there is a possibility, but in VST, another thing that you can do is that you can keep a balloon at VST level, close the VST, and find out what is the response of the pulmonary arterial system.
Okay, okay, sir.
Excuse me, sir.
That's
Sir, in this case, sir, clinically it is very clear that there is severe PH, sir, with the single S2 and ECG
Yes,
and
yes.
X-ray, sir. So,
Yeah.
so shall we go for a catheterization or
No,
because clinically it is very clear.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's all clear. But on a theory aspect, see, whenever you are saying that if there is no more treatment, it is irreversible and all, you are telling the patient that you are doomed. It is as a doctor, it is your responsibility to make all attempts to see that you are not missing a operable condition. That is all.
Clinically, we can say no, sir. This is severe PH. So clinical
Yeah,
examination.
I believe ECG, everything indicates severe pH. ECG showing pure RV with strain pattern. All indicate that there is a significant pH. So I agree with you that there is no doubt that the patient is most likely almost 99% inoperable. Okay, right. What else?
Sir, after this, sir, coming to medical management,
Yeah.
sir, I would first try with this calcium channel blockers.
Why do you want to see for calcium channel blocker? You should demonstrate that there is a spastic component. If there is no spastic
decrease in
component,
10 mmHg.
giving calcium channel blocker may be detrimental because that can depress RV function.
Other class of drugs, sir, phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitors like sildenafil or tadalafil, they can be given, or endothelial receptor antagonists like bosentan was given previously, emrisentan, 5 milligrams BD, or sir, macitentan. Macitentan 8 milligrams once a day.
Is it 8 milligrams or 10 milligrams?
So emrisentan is 5 milligrams. Macitentan is 8 milligrams.
I think it's 10 milligrams. My memory is that it is 10 milligrams.
Sitaxitan. That is for
macitentan is 10 milligrams.
Macitentan is 10 milligrams.
10 mg. Okay, sir.
The other one is 5, I agree with you. Right.
Yes.
And what is the dose of bosentan? What is the dose of bosentan?
Sir, we give 125 mg BD, 125 mg BD first for 1 month, and then 62.5 mg BD for later on.
You are decreasing the dose. No, it's other
yes,
way
sir.
around.
For 1 month, we give 125 mg BD, he tolerates, and then decrease the dose.
Why are you giving higher dose and decreasing it?
So maybe.
What is the basis?
So because these are anti-inflammatory drugs and they reduce the PVR. So
ideally,
or maybe
you start with a smaller dose.
Small dose and then increase.
Then increase. You start with I usually start with 62.5 milligrams half BD. Then you increase to 1 BD. Then you increase to if the patient is tolerating. What is the problem of these type of drugs? Because they act on the systemic circulation also, and sometimes they may produce significant vasodilatation, resulting in a more
hypotension,
more cyanosis. The patient may become more cyanotic. So you should start with a smaller dose. Look at the response, and depending upon the response, you can increase the dosage, and you can give combination. And many patients do very well. I have got at least 10 patients who are on combination treatment, and they are doing extremely well. They are carrying on with their normal routine life without any problem. So the newer drugs have found many patients can be improved in their symptoms as well as they can survive longer. And if the patient's response is very good, and if you think that there is an element of spasm also contributing to the pulmonary artery hypertension, then you can even explore the possibility whether the patient can be operated. So nowadays, treatment of pulmonary artery hypertension can be most three drugs. One is sildenafil group of drug.
Yes, sir.
The second is the ET1 inhibitors.
Endothelin receptor antagonist.
And three, the prostacyclin stimulants. Okay, so nowadays oral prostacyclin stimulant is also available. What is the name?
Oral prostacyclin. So this is soluble guanylate cyclase.
Now, what is the name of the drug?
Riociguat.
Riociguat can be used. The Riociguat is another. And another is celoxipine. Celoxipine is oral prostacyclin.
Yes,
Otherwise, you have to give either nasal or intravenous. So there are a number of multiple drugs are available.
Sir,
And
sir,
yes.
so which drugs can be used in this primary pulmonary hypertension? Means idiopathic pulmonary artery hypertension.
You can use all the drugs can be used, but what I used to use a combination drug. I use a combination of this
tadalafil and ambrisentan.
Tadalafil and ambrisentan is the one which is recommended, where it's found to be maximum benefit. And nowadays this combination has been found to be extremely useful. Both drugs should be used. ET1 receptor antagonist as well as this sildenafil or tadalafil can be used, and they are found to be extremely useful. Many patients who become quite asymptomatic. I got at least 3 or 4 patients with primary pulmonary arterial hypertension. They're on treatment for the past 2-3 years, and they're improving. So the present drugs which are available for reducing the pulmonary arterial pressure has been found to be effective, and that definitely improves the life expectancy of patients with severe pulmonary arterial hypertension.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I think good case, Amit. I think you discussed it very well. I think very good. I think if people can bring cases, I think we can discuss. That will be the best thing to do. Any doubts about things that we have discussed? And nowadays you can get oral prostacyclin, which is celoxipine, but it's very expensive. I don't think it's available in India, but it has been marketed outside, and this can be an additional armamentarium for you to bring down the pulmonary artery pressure. Only thing is that in patients with Eisenmenger syndrome, unlike in primary pulmonary artery hypertension, you should gradually increase the dose, or always observing whether the cyanosis is becoming more and more. Because sometimes the vasodilatation, systemic vasodilatation may be so powerful that ultimately that will result in more and more of right left.
Yes.
Okay. Any doubts that anybody is having?
No.
Sir, one doubt, sir. Sir, in case of PDA, we say usually S2 is variable, sir. But after Eisenmengerization, when it is like pulmonary vascular resistance is almost more or less fixed, then how to explain that variable S2?
In PD also it can be single. In all the 3 conditions in a patient with pulmonary Eisenmenger syndrome, it can be single. In VSD, it is always single. In PDA, sometimes it can be normal split, and that depends upon how much is the left to right shunt or right to left shunt. Because it's very often it is a bidirectional shunt, and that will result in a normal splitting of the second heart sound. It is well described that about half the cases it can be single second heart sound. In half the cases it can be normal splitting of second heart sound. Similarly, in a patient with ASD, it will be 1/3 can have normal single second sound, 1/3 can have a wide fixed split, and 1/3 can have wide variable split. All the 3 are described. It is because of why the sound becomes single is because of the hangout interval is completely neutralized. When the hangout interval is completely neutralized, the main split mechanism is because of the
hangout interval.
Yeah, and also in a respiratory variation of the the flow coming to either the right side and left side also gets neutralized, resulting in ultimately a single second heart sound. So it is both in AST, VSD, PTA, single heart Eisenmenger syndrome, you can get single second heart sound. But in VSD, it is always single. In PDA, it can be normal split, or it can in ASD, it can be wide split. The volume of the pulse is the one which I would give more importance. If the pulse is having a high volume, I think you should go more in favor of PDA. And of course,
PDA.
PDA can be diagnosed by the differential cyanosis, differential clubbing. All those points help you.
Yes, sir.
Any other point you want to discuss?
Sir, is it okay if we don't include force and tension in pulse? It's outdated, na sir? Means we should not mention. Na? Only volume and character is okay, na sir?
Tension, if you
Some
want,
examiners.
you can compress the brachial artery and you can comment about the tension.
Okay, sir.
But that's not very important. I would say that things that you should mention are rate, rhythm, character,
Yes.
volume, cell wall, and then radiofemoral and radial delay. I think that will be enough. Character of the pulse you should always mention. That's the most important.
Yes, yes, yes.
One more doubt, sir.
Ah.
About pulse. Sir, if the pulse is regular, then do we need to mention about the radio apex pulse deficit in those type of patients?
If it is
No,
regular, then there is no point.
No,
Because it is made use of to diagnose atrial fibrillation, which is an irregular situation. I don't think there is any need to mention pulse apex deficit. Not required. In a regular pulse, it is not required.
Sir, one doubt, sir. Sir, can we mention in the final diagnosis with normal sinus rhythm without, because we just on history, because pulse we say regular, but some examiners say you have to see the ECG to say this.
Oh, see, you are taking every point, because if the see what are the conditions which pulse can be regular and the patient may not be in normal sinus rhythm.
Complete heart block.
Yeah, complete heart block.
Yes,
Especially in the patient with atrial fibrillation with complete heart block, it can be regular.
Fixed varying block.
Or it can be
Fixed
junctional
varying
rhythm.
with
Junctional rhythm.
Junctional rhythm. Yes.
So junction rhythm can be diagnosed by Cannon waves, abnormal Jugavin pulsation. So you see, after all, your clinical diagnosis can sometimes be wrong, and then you modify it after seeing the electrocardiogram. So clinically, you think it's normal sinus rhythm, but if you think that if the patient is having an atrial rhythm, where the abnormal wave is a P wave, abnormal P wave and atrial rhythm, you have to change it. But clinically, there are features to tell you that it is a normal sinus. Patient is regular, the regular no Cannon waves are seen. There is nothing to suspect that patient is, and the sinus rhythm is the commonest rhythm. And I would appreciate if somebody says that it's normal sinus rhythm. And if the electrocardiogram is abnormal, then you change your diagnosis. See, after making a clinical diagnosis on the basis of electrocardiogram and X-ray, also we change the diagnosis. Then sometimes after changing the diagnosis with the ECG and X-ray, when you do the still you change the diagnosis. So whether your diagnosis is based on findings that you have got, when subsequently on the basis of an investigation, you may slightly change the diagnosis because your own investigation you found some other abnormality. So I would definitely agree with the candidate if he says that features suggest that most likely this patient is in normal sinus rhythm. Most likely not. The patient is in normal sinus rhythm. Regular Cannon waves. I will definitely go for normal sinus. Any other doubts? Other doubts?
Sir, in this patient, patient was having cardiomegaly on X-ray. So should we explain by saying that significant TR is there and that the patient is having?
I think that can be the explanation. The patient may be having TR which has resulted in RV dilatation and pushing the apex down and out. Okay, thank you, Amit, for bringing a case. I think there was a good discussion. Thank you, Amit. Next week, there won't be any class because I have to undergo a cataract surgery, so I won't be coming. And also after the week after next, also that's a Good Friday. So the 2 weeks there won't be any class. So we will meet again in the on, I think, on 9th of April.
Okay.
9th.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
2 weeks we will not have classes because of inconvenience. And we will have class on 9th of April. I think it is 9th of April. Or that second week of April. The first week is, I think, second, third, fourth. I think it is 9th of April. Okay?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
sir.
Yes,
I
sir.
will,
Yes,
I will- I will bring a case, but then you can also, if any one of you is having a case, you let me know so that that case
Yes.
can be discussed. Then it becomes more
Yes, yes.
lively, and then the discussion of various aspects of the history presentation all can be made more lively. Okay, I think
Yes.
we must congratulate and thank Amit for bringing the case. Okay.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank
Right.
you,
Okay.
Thank you,
Bye.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.